The wind on Voraxis 6 didn't howl, it scraped. Every gust felt like sandpaper dragged across skin. Metallic dust clung to armor and teeth alike. The joint military base squatted like a scar on the orange rock plains, where Earth's green banners hung limply beside the jagged sigils of the Galactic Alliance. Cadet Orion Vance adjusted the strap of his oxygen mask as he stood in formation. His visor blinked red across his peripheral, air purity below human tolerance. Typical. The Alliance called it a gesture of unity. But Earth soldiers knew better. Everything here screamed, dominate or suffocate. Across from the human cadets stood the Alliance's finest. Dravaxians, Zenthari, the multi-limbed Threx. Each species radiated casual superiority, their armor pristine, their posture arrogant. Commander Vralik towered above them, his long, scale-like coat brushing the ground, his obsidian eyes scanning like twin razors. Humans, he began, voice like gravel grinding in a forge, are an interesting experiment. So fragile. So emotional. And yet persistent. Like weeds. Orion didn't blink. He stood at attention, shoulders squared, eyes forward. He'd heard worse. Vralik wasn't original, just louder. Next to him, Cadet Monroe shifted uncomfortably. Guy talks like a Sith Lord, she muttered under her breath. Orion remained silent. Words had weight, but silence had gravity. Vralik strolled between the ranks. Today's exercise is combat fundamentals. Formations, response time, and obedience. His gaze lingered on the Earth cadets. Let's begin with your smallest. He pointed at Orion. A chuckle ran through the alien's side. A Threx clicked its mandibles. The quiet one? Step forward, Vralik ordered. Orion moved. Not too fast, not hesitant, just precise. He stood alone in the training ring, hands behind his back. You, Vralik said, addressing his own soldiers, will demonstrate the Kravari Blitz. Human cadet will defend. A Dravaxian warrior stepped up. Twice Orion's size, claws glinting in the red sun. He grinned, revealing a mouth full of tusks. Begin, Vralik snapped. The warrior lunged. Fast. Aggressive. Predictable. Orion didn't flinch. He pivoted low, letting momentum carry the attacker forward. A twist of his heel, a grip on the wrist, and the Dravaxian hit the dust-hard armor first. Silence. Orion stepped back to position. His breathing hadn't changed. Vralik's jaw tightened. Lucky balance, he growled. Let's test endurance. 3-on-1. Murmurs rippled through the Earth cadets. Monroe stepped forward. Commander, with respect. Denied, Vralik snapped. Stand down, cadet. 3 alien soldiers entered the ring. Orion waited. The attack was more coordinated this time. High, low, rear, designed to overwhelm. Orion didn't overpower. He redirected. He bent, spun, stepped aside. 2 of them collided mid-attack. The third found himself in an arm lock before he knew what hit him. Orion released him with a shove and took 2 steps back. Again, no expression. Vralik walked toward him. Slow. Deliberate. Then, without warning, he struck. A sharp, echoing slap across Orion's faceplate. The visor cracked. You dishonor this uniform by turning drills into theater, the commander hissed. You are not a warrior. You are a shadow behind steel. Orion stood still. Behind him, Monroe swore under her breath. The air grew dense. Even the wind paused. Say something, Vralik demanded. Orion looked at him. Then, calmly, he reached up, removed the broken helmet, and let it fall to the dirt. I won't need it, he said. That was all. He turned and walked toward the barracks. Silent. Unrushed. Vralik stared after him, fuming. From the alien side, the Threx warrior leaned to the Dravaxian. What is it with humans? The quiet ones always worry me. Because you don't hear them coming, the Dravaxian muttered. In the distance, Orion disappeared behind a steel door. Beneath the cracked sun, a quiet storm was forming. And in 5 minutes, no one would be laughing. The door hissed closed behind Orion Vance, locking out the bladed stares and mocking silence of the training grounds. He stood alone in the dim barracks hall, the hum of generators faint beneath the concrete floor. His cracked helmet dangled from his fingers, the fracture slicing straight through the Earth emblem. He stared at it a moment, then dropped it on a bench. He opened his locker. Rows of standard issue gear. Oxygen cartridges, thermal blade, emergency rations. None of it mattered. Not today. What he needed wasn't regulation. It was hidden, sealed in a black case at the very back. No markings. No serial. Just one print-locked clasp. He placed his thumb on the reader. It clicked open. Inside lay a set of lightweight combat modules, sleek matte plating, earth-forged, illegal under intergalactic code. This wasn't something a cadet should have. But Orion wasn't just a cadet. He stripped off his uniform and began assembling the gear. No exosuit. No boosters. Just engineered precision and neurolinked response tech. Built for one purpose, short-term devastation. Each motion was deliberate. Each strap, magnetic seal, and blade sheath secured in practice rhythm. Behind him, the barracks intercom sputtered to life. "Cadet Vance," said Commander Vrolok's voice, soaked in disdain. "Report to the West Quadrant for observation drills. Perhaps you'll learn something from watching soldiers." Orion ignored it. He slid a small disk from the case and tapped it against the barracks console. Lines of unauthorized code cascaded down the screen. Lights dimmed. Doors unlocked. Base sensors blinked into a blind loop. It would last 5 minutes, no more. His eyes flicked once toward the mirror above the sink. Not to admire. To measure. 5 minutes, he whispered to himself. That's all. Then he left. West Quadrant drills were underway. Alien soldiers ran synchronized patterns across the courtyard, barking in native tongues, thudding boots kicking up red dust. The humans stood to the side, excluded. Observing. That was the word Vrolok used. Observing. Monroe leaned on a supply crate, arms crossed. She'd seen Orion take that slap and say nothing, walk off like a shadow. She didn't like it. "He's not the type to forget," she muttered to Cadet Ramos. Ramos frowned. "You mean he's gonna report it?" "No," she said. "I mean he's going to remember." The buzz of energy weapons sparking in mock drills filled the air. Across the field, Vrolok paced between his elite, tall, armored, confident. He gestured as he mocked Earth tactics. "Combat is not about survival," he sneered. "It is about dominion. The enemy must not rise. They must disappear." Orion emerged from the corner of the facility, stepping into the courtyard like a shadow drawn in graphite. No helmet. No insignia. Just sleek armor and a flat expression. One of the Threx spotted him. "Look! The statue moves. Did you get lost, Cadet?" Another jeered. Orion didn't respond. He walked past the human line. Past the armory. Past the training perimeter. Right into the heart of the field, into their ground. Vrolok turned. "You were told to report to observation. Not stroll into my formation." Orion's eyes met his. "I observed enough." The soldiers laughed. Vrolok did not. "Are you issuing a challenge?" he asked, stepping forward. "No," Orion said quietly. "I'm issuing a correction." He raised a hand. The base lights flickered. A flash pulse knocked out every non-human visor across the field, an electromagnetic burst, precisely tuned. Only alien optics went blind. Confusion exploded in shouts. "Cover!" someone shouted. But Orion was already moving. He struck the nearest soldier in the solar cluster with the butt of his palm, sending the alien into the dirt. Another lunged blindly. Orion sidestepped and swept a leg. A third reached for a blaster. Orion's blade hissed to life and cut through the grip without hesitation. Panic spread like fire. The humans backed away instinctively. Not out of fear, but all. "What the hell is he doing?" Ramos whispered. Monroe stared. Something none of us were allowed to. 3 more aliens dropped before anyone understood what was happening. Not lethal, just disabling. Efficient. Surgical. Vralik roared. Enough! He charged, claws outstretched. Orion ducked, slammed a knee into the commander's gut, twisted, and launched him across the field. Vralik skidded, armor cracked, breath wheezing. Silence. The rest of the alien squad froze, unwilling to advance. Orion stood over Vralik, blade idle in his hand. You slapped a cadet, he said flatly. Not a weapon. He turned away, walking back toward the barracks as sirens finally blared in the distance. Monroe exhaled slowly. 5 minutes. Ramos nodded, stunned. He brought down their entire unit in 5 minutes. From the edge of the field, a human officer whispered into his comms. Command, we have a situation, and maybe a legend. The moment Orion vanished behind the barracks doors again, the courtyard held its breath. Alien soldiers groaned on the ground, some clutching broken armor plates, others too stunned to move. The rest backed off, eyes darting, unsure whether to retaliate or stay down. Vralik hadn't risen. Human cadets stood still. No one clapped. No one cheered. They simply watched the door Orion had gone through, as if expecting something more. Something worse. Inside, Orion removed the combat shell with practiced precision, each latch disengaged in silence. The armor hissed as it separated from his skin. He stashed it back in the black case, locked it, and slid it into a recess behind the locker panel. No fingerprints, no data trail. He washed his hands in the sink. The water was cold and slow. His reflection stared back, tired eyes, calm face. No adrenaline. Just an even line of thought. His lip was split from the earlier strike, a faint trace of blood against pale skin. His internal timer buzzed. 5 minutes had passed. Outside, the sirens wailed louder. Protocols were being reinstated. Alliance surveillance grids rebooted. Security would come for him soon. They'd check logs, find nothing. Cameras had gone dark during the burst. His entry and exit from the courtyard would be ghost data, unstamped, unfiled. But Vralik would remember. And so would everyone else. Command Center, Sector 4. Colonel Adrian Kale stared at the feed looping across her screen. Nothing but static for the key 5-minute block. The moment systems resumed, they captured only aftermath. Alien troops down, Vralik collapsed, human cadets in stunned silence. She tapped her earpiece. Lieutenant Harker. Get me intel on Cadet Orion Vance. Clearance 0 black. Ma'am? That's a restricted pull. I'm aware. Do it. Kale leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. What the hell did Earth send us? Infirmary. Vralik growled as med-drones scanned his ribs. I want him detained. No broken bones, the bot replied. Severe impact trauma. Displacement of 2 internal plates. I didn't ask for diagnostics. The assistant medic, an Earth-born officer, stood beside the bed, unreadable. With all due respect, Commander, you ordered unarmed drills. He never drew a weapon. He was a weapon. Your soldiers initiated. You escalated. He responded. Vralik sat up slowly, fire in his jaw. You think this is balance? I think it was overdue, the medic said flatly, and walked out. Barracks later that night. The hallway was dark. Just the hum of lights and occasional footsteps from patrolling security. Orion lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, hands folded across his chest. Across the room, Monroe turned in her bed. You know they're going to come for you, right? He didn't answer. They're not going to let that slide. Vralik's connected. You humiliated him. Still nothing. She sat up. What are you? A cadet, he said finally. No, really. He turned his head toward her, eyes sharp in the low light. A quiet one. She held his gaze for a moment, then exhaled and lay back down. You scare me. That's wise. Midnight. A coded knock at the door. 3 soft taps, then silence. Orion opened it. A man in a black coat stood outside, no rank, no insignia. Come with me. Orion stepped into the hall without a word. They walked through service tunnels beneath the base. No lights. No cameras. The man led him into a soundproof chamber with a single chair and a holographic screen. The display flickered to life, revealing Colonel Kale. You're not officially on any Black Ops roster, Cadet Vance. But we know what you are. Orion didn't respond. You've been off the books since age 10. Groomed, trained, tested. Then hidden in plain sight under the Earth Cadet Exchange program. Still silent. I'm not here to court-martial you. I'm here to ask, why now? He looked up. Because someone needed to remind them. Of what? That Earth didn't join this alliance to beg for approval. Kale nodded slowly. The footage gap was clean. We'll leave it that way, for now. Understood. You'll be reassigned. Quietly. You'll leave this base before dawn. What about the others? They'll talk. Let them. Every army needs a ghost story. Orion stood. One more thing, Kale said. What would you have done if Frolic had hit you again? I would have let him. She raised an eyebrow. He continued. But I wouldn't have stopped at his ribs. Kale blinked once, then cut the feed. The man in black gestured to the corridor. We have a transport waiting. Orion followed. Outside, the dust storm gathered on the edge of the horizon. He didn't look back. Wind tore across the landing zone as the dropship touched down, silent, matte black, no insignia. No transmission was sent ahead. It didn't need one. This wasn't a diplomatic flight or a military shuffle. This was extraction. The rear hatch hissed open. Orion stepped inside without breaking stride. A single man waited near the cockpit. Dark uniform. Cold eyes. No introduction. The hatch sealed behind them. Destination? Orion asked. Classified. You'll be briefed on arrival. The ship rose into the sky, leaving Varaxis 6 behind. No goodbyes. No signatures. As they broke orbit, Orion stared through the viewport. The base looked small now, smaller than the moment that changed everything. 12 hours earlier. The EM burst dropped every camera feed across the west quadrant. For exactly 5 minutes, Varaxis 6 went blind. In that silence, Orion had moved like a blade drawn from shadow. 3 soldiers down in 12 seconds, joints shattered, breath knocked out, weapons stripped before they could be raised. The 4th tried to counter with a shock baton. Orion caught it mid-swing, yanked him forward, and drove a knee into his neck plate. He fell without a word. The 5th and 6th flanked him. Too slow. Orion ducked low, used one body to slam into the other, then rolled across the ground, flipping up behind them. His blade whispered through the air, not cutting flesh, just armor straps, leaving them exposed and off balance. They never got up again. By the time the 7th tried to escape, Orion already stood in front of him. Calm. Breath steady. Blade pointed at the dirt. Go, he said. The soldier ran. Orion didn't chase. He didn't need to. At the far end of the courtyard, Commander Vralik snarled. Fury twisted his expression, his pride bleeding from every pore. You insult my command. You struck me in front of your soldiers, Orion replied. It was discipline. It was cowardice. Vralik roared and charged. He was fast. His species was built for war. Claws extended, weight behind him, fury in every muscle. But fury didn't win fights. Orion moved. One pivot, one shift of weight, and Vralik sailed past him, staggering on his landing. Orion didn't give him space to reset. He stepped in, low, tight, and drove his fist into the commander's gut, then spun, swept his legs out, and brought him down hard. Dust erupted. Armor cracked. Vralik gasped, windless. Orion crouched beside him, blade at the commander's throat. You wanted a display, he said quietly. Now you have one. He rose, turned away, and walked back across the field. Every eye followed him. The humans didn't cheer. They didn't move. Some were stunned. Others afraid. A few, like Monroe, simply nodded. She understood. It wasn't rage that powered Orion. It was clarity. He didn't lash out. He calculated. And he never missed. Now, in the ship, the silence was familiar. No debrief. No small talk. Finally, the man at the front spoke. "You've made enemies." Orion didn't turn. "I was told I'd be reassigned. You're being reactivated." A beat of silence. "Target?" The man's voice was measured. "There's a rising faction inside the Alliance. Anti-human, covert militarized. They operate from within, but deny all links. Name? Project Ash Veil. You'll be inserted under a new identity. Objective?" The man turned his eyes toward Orion for the first time. "Destabilize them." Quietly. Orion nodded once. "Fine." Another moment passed before the man added, "This time, you won't have to hold back." Elsewhere, Vorax's 6th Infirmary. Commander Vralik gripped the edge of the med table as drones sealed the fractures in his ribs. His second-in-command stood nearby, uncertain whether to speak. "He's gone," the officer said. Vralik didn't respond. "They removed his file from our systems. He was never listed." Still silence. "They say Earth won't press charges. They say it was a misunderstanding." Vralik finally looked up, voice low. "He dismantled a full squad without a single lethal strike." The officer nodded. "Tell command," Vralik said, standing slowly. "This is not over." At a listening station orbiting Ganymede, a single line of data blinked onto the secure channel. Agent Orion Vance, active. And on a distant ship, now streaking toward an unnamed system, Orion closed his eyes and spoke, not to the man in black, but to himself. "No more 5-minute warnings." The dropship docked on the dark side of Astra 9, an unlisted relay station floating in a dead orbit. From space, it resembled a forgotten satellite. Inside, it was anything but. Steel corridors pulsed with quiet energy. The air was colder, recycled more times than Orion could guess. No guards. No greetings. Just direction, one hallway, one reinforced door, one briefing ahead. Orion walked with steady steps. No armor now. Civilian gear, gray and plain, fit tight to the skin. He looked like a technician, not a weapon. Exactly how Earth liked their shadows to appear. The door slid open without sound. Inside, Colonel Adrian Kale waited, seated beside a 3-dimensional tactical table. A single cup of steaming black tea in her hand. She didn't look up as he entered. "You've caused a problem." Orion sat without being asked. "Only if it wasn't needed." Kale took a sip. "Vralik's report paints you as a threat to Alliance unity." "I was provoked." "He didn't mention that part." "He wouldn't." Kale finally looked at him. "The Alliance wants you turned over." He held her gaze. "You going to do that?" She didn't answer right away. "You're too useful," she said finally. "Too dangerous, too unpredictable, and exactly what Earth needs right now." The room dimmed slightly as a new holofeed appeared above the table, several red markers blinking across a galactic map. Kale pointed to the largest one. "Project Ashfile's confirmed base. Deep space facility, built into an asteroid belt near the Cerex cluster. Completely off-grid. Highly protected. No civilians. No media. Just black cells and training camps." Orion studied the layout. Minimal escape routes. Heavy shielding. Multi-species defense network. "What's the mission objective?" "Shut them down. Quietly if possible. Brutally if not." He nodded once. Kale leaned forward. "You won't be going in as Orion Vance. New alias, new face, new clearance. You'll be a mercenary outcast. That'll get you in the front door. Once you're inside, we'll cut off communication. No fallback? No trail." He folded his hands. "You expect me to survive?" "I expect you to finish." She stood, retrieved a data chip, and slid it across the table. "All available intelligence. You'll have 6 hours to review before transit. He picked it up, slid it into his jacket. Who's leading Ash Vale? Cale hesitated. Former Alliance General Razek. Dishonorably discharged. Genius-level strategist. Species Varnak. The ones with the exoskeletal spines? Those. Tough to kill. Arrogant to a fault. I'll find a way. Cale stepped toward the door, then paused. One last thing. Orion turned slightly. You've humiliated Vralik, you know that. On record, it's buried. Off record, he's a scar waiting to reopen. Orion stood. He'll come looking. And? I won't need 5 minutes next time. Hours later, the infiltration transport drifted past the edge of the Syrinx belt. A battered ship, painted with scorch marks and falsified serial codes. Inside, Orion checked the final loadout: compact pulse blaster, shock emitter in his wristband, a blade coated in carbon slick to cut even Varnak armor. As the ship lurched forward, he activated the internal log. Audio only. Encryption burned into the signal. This is Orion Vance, designation void. Initiating Operation Ash Vale under Deep Code Protocol. No backup. No trace. If this reaches anyone, assume I didn't make it. He cut the log. Below, the asteroid facility pulsed like a dark heart. Meanwhile, back on Voraxis 6, the courtyard was clean. Not a trace of the confrontation remained. But the silence in the ranks lingered. Cadet Monroe stood before a new drill instructor, one with no claws, no theatrics. A calm, stone-faced human from command. She whispered to Ramos. Still no word on Vance? Gone. Transferred, they said. They say where? Nope. But, Ramos gestured slightly toward the stars. I think he's doing something bigger. Monroe nodded. They'll remember what he did here. Yeah, Ramos said. And they'll wonder what he's doing next. In the Alliance High Council chamber, Commander Vralik stood before a semicircle of silent figures. His left arm was still wrapped in compression mesh, his jaw still healing. You lost to a cadet? One of the counselors asked, voice dipped in scorn. Vralik's fist clenched. He was not a cadet. He was a weapon Earth buried beneath a uniform. And now he's missing. Vralik raised his head. He's not missing. He's moving. Meaning? Earth didn't punish him. They promoted him. The chamber murmured. Another counselor leaned forward. Do you want revenge? No, Vralik said. I want clarity. And if you find him? Vralik's eyes narrowed. I'll remind him that a slap was mercy. In the silence of deep space, Orion's dropship coasted into docking position under Ashvile's outer ring. Engines silent. Weapons primed. Inside his helmet, his pulse never changed. The mission had started. And this time, there would be no warning.